The storms that surround Twitter and Facebook comment have raised some fascinating issues about free speech, which we haven't really yet come to terms with. Firstly, that we all have to take responsibility for what we say, which is quite a good lesson to learn. But secondly, we've learned how appallingly prickly and intolerant society has become of even the mildest adverse comment.
So, Rowan Atkinson just dropped some serious truth bombs on Keir Starmer, calling him out for taking the country down a dark path. Rowan Atkinson isn't just famous for his comedy, he's also an outspoken advocate for freedom of speech. And after Keir Starmer hinted at some major changes that could restrict just that, Atkinson stepped in and completely took him down. What exactly did he say? And why did this speech send shockwaves across the nation? Let's break it down. All right, let's set the stage. Recently, the UK has been dealing with some chaotic public disorder. People were calling for the government to take action, and many assumed that tougher restrictions, particularly around online speech, were on the horizon. But instead of taking a measured approach, many fear the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, is ready to double down on these restrictions.
The Joint Committee on Human Rights summarised, as you may know, this whole issue very well by saying, while arresting a protester for using threatening or abusive speech may, depending on the circumstances, be a proportionate response, we do not think that language or behaviour that is merely insulting should ever be criminalised in this way. The clear problem with the outlawing of insult is that too many things can be interpreted as such. Criticism is easily construed as insult by certain parties. Ridicule easily construed as insult. Sarcasm, unfavourable comparison, merely stating an alternative point of view to the orthodoxy can be interpreted as insult. And because so many things can be interpreted as insult, it is hardly surprising that so many things have been, as the examples I talked about earlier show.
Starmer is reportedly considering tougher regulations on online content, a move that many, including Atkinson, see as a dangerous overstep. Critics argue that if we start silencing people online, where does it end? Can we still speak our minds without fearing legal action? That's where Rowan Atkinson enters the scene, delivering a scathing takedown of Starmer's position. Rowan Atkinson, the comedy legend known for his iconic role as Mr. Bean, has been very vocal about the dangers of censoring free speech. In a viral speech that's been making the rounds, Atkinson highlighted several real-life cases that show just how far the authorities have gone in censoring individuals. From a man being arrested for calling a police horse gay to a teenager getting in trouble for criticising the Church of Scientology, these stories are real and frankly unbelievable. Atkinson argues that society is becoming more authoritarian, silencing voices under the guise of protecting people from offensive or harmful speech. And here's where it gets really interesting. He directly challenged Keir Starmer and the potential overreach of laws that could criminalise perfectly legal opinions just because they offend someone. So, what exactly did Keir Starmer propose? Well, Labour's push for more regulations comes in response to rising concerns about online safety. Figures like London Mayor Sadiq Khan have called for amendments to the Online Safety Act, claiming it's not fit for purpose. Carol Vorderman, another Labour activist, also jumped in, saying the act was never strong enough to begin with. But here's the kicker. Many people, including the Christian Institute, have argued that current laws already cover these issues. If you make online threats, guess what? You can already be arrested for that. There's no need for draconian measures to police opinions just because they might offend someone. Atkinson then hit Starmer where it hurt, calling out the slippery and subjective language used in these discussions. He pointed out that words like harmful, offensive, and extremism are incredibly vague. Who gets to decide what's harmful? What offends one person might not offend another. And that's exactly why Atkinson believes these laws could lead to a chilling effect on free speech. Atkinson made it clear that we already have enough laws to deal with real threats, like inciting violence or causing harm. But penalising someone for simply offending another person, that's a step too far. And the public? Well, let's just say people are divided. Some believe that tougher laws are necessary to keep online spaces safe, while others, like Atkinson, fear we're heading down a dangerous path where expressing your opinion could land you in hot water. But not everyone agrees. Others argue that in today's digital age, online spaces are breeding grounds for hate, and something must be done to regulate harmful content. One commenter stated, "We need these laws to keep people safe from online harassment and abuse." But here's the heart of Atkinson's message. Silencing voices doesn't make society safer. In fact, it could make it more dangerous. He's argued that free speech is essential, even if that speech is offensive or uncomfortable. Atkinson quoted former US President Barack Obama, who once said that attempts to restrict speech can become tools to silence critics or oppress minorities. And that's the real takeaway. Instead of shutting people down, we should encourage more dialogue, more debate, and more freedom to express our opinions, even if we don't agree with them. Now, here's where things get even more heated, because Atkinson didn't hold back when taking shots at Keir Starmer over this entire freebies scandal. Let me break it down for you, because things get real messy real quick. Keir, as we know, has been under fire for accepting gifts and freebies, but Atkinson went full throttle and publicly fired shots, basically calling Starmer out for being a massive hypocrite. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Starmer, who once accused the Conservatives of cronyism and unethical behaviour, now finds himself tangled in his own web of scandal, and Atkinson wasn't about to let that slide.
Only been off air for a couple of days, and still they are completely insane, barking mad, mental, grifters, corrupt, who are absolutely dreadful. And that's not even got onto their policies.
Atkinson took to the media and basically roasted Starmer for trying to sweep the whole freebie situation under the rug. Like, seriously, Keir Starmer accepted over $76,000 worth of entertainment, clothes, and other gifts from various donors. And this wasn't just a casual gift here or there. We're talking $1,200 in work clothing and a couple of £1,000 for fancy glasses from none other than Lord Wahid Ali, a Labour peer and Starmer ally. That's a lot of swag, and Atkinson wasn't having it.
How can Keir Starmer tell us that he's going to clean up politics whilst taking £100,000 worth of freebies? How can he possibly do that?
On one hand, Keir had been going after the Tories for their lack of transparency and ethical behaviour, especially during the pandemic. Remember all the heat the Conservatives got over their handling of personal protective equipment contracts? Starmer was right there, leading the charge, criticising them for cronyism. But now, it's like the tables have turned, and Atkinson was quick to highlight that hypocrisy. How could Starmer attack others for shady dealings when he's now knee-deep in a scandal of his own? And to make things worse, it's not just Starmer who's caught up in this mess. His closest allies, like Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner and Chancellor Rachel Reeves, have also been dragged into the scandal. Both of them accepted thousands of pounds worth of work clothing from rich donors, and Atkinson didn't miss a beat in pointing that out. In fact, Rayner accepted a 1,255-day trip to stay in Ali's Manhattan apartment over New Year's, which, let's be real, sounds pretty luxurious. And when the media got wind of it, the backlash was inevitable. Atkinson seized the moment to remind everyone that while Labour's leadership is enjoying fancy gifts and free trips, the public is struggling with real issues like cost of living pressures and economic uncertainty.
I reckon it's the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, is now the most hopelessly inept politician in the West.
This is where Atkinson's criticism cuts deep. It's not just about the freebies themselves, but what they represent. To Atkinson, this scandal reveals a larger issue within the Labour Party, an issue of greed, privilege, and disconnect from the average person. It's not just a bad look for Starmer, it paints the entire party in a negative light, especially when you consider that many voters expected better from a party that promised to fight for fairness and integrity. And the timing couldn't be worse. With Starmer only 2 months into his role as Prime Minister, this scandal hit just as Labour was starting to build momentum. Atkinson's shots at Keir are more than just political jabs. They're a reminder to the public that maybe, just maybe, Labour isn't living up to its own promises. While Starmer was busy attacking the Conservatives for ethical lapses, he seemingly forgot to keep his own house in order. Atkinson was quick to remind everyone of that. Now, let's talk about what this means going forward. Atkinson didn't just fire shots for the sake of drama, he's strategically putting Starmer in a tough position. As this scandal continues to unfold, it's clear that Starmer's leadership is being tested. Atkinson has essentially planted a seed of doubt in the public's mind about Starmer's credibility and whether Labour can be trusted to hold the moral high ground. It's not just about freebies, it's about the bigger picture. Is Labour any different from the Tories they've been criticising for years? Or is this just politics as usual? Atkinson's criticism also shines a light on the broader issue of how political parties are funded in the UK. British democracy has always been fuelled by donations, often from very rich individuals, businesses and unions. And while the law tries to maintain transparency, It's clear that the public doesn't like the influence that wealthy donors seem to have on political decisions. Atkinson knows this, and his attack on Starmer plays into that wider frustration. He's essentially saying that, look, Labour's no better than the Conservatives when it comes to relying on the wealthy elite for support. The scandal also raises the question of how Labour plans to regain the public's trust. Starmer has already promised to stop accepting free clothing, but is that enough? Atkinson doesn't think so. His sharp critique suggests that Labour needs to do a lot more to convince voters that they're serious about transparency and accountability. Otherwise, they risk losing the moral authority they've been so quick to claim. And let's not forget the ripple effects this could have on the political landscape. The freebies scandal could open the door for other political parties to capitalise on Labour's missteps. Reform, for example, is already gaining traction in certain seats, and Atkinson's shots at Starmer could further erode Labour's support. If voters start to see Labour as just another party caught up in greed and cronyism, they might look elsewhere for leadership, and Atkinson knows that. At the end of the day, Atkinson's shots at Keir Starmer over the freebies scandal are more than just political mudslinging. They're a calculated effort to expose what he sees as the hypocrisy and privilege within Labour's leadership. And as the scandal continues to unfold, it's clear that Starmer has a lot of damage control to do. Will he be able to weather the storm? Or will Atkinson's attacks leave a lasting mark on his reputation and Labour's standing with the public? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure. This scandal isn't going away anytime soon. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.